Welcome, everybody, to Rogersville Faith Assembly Church YouTube channel. If you are a returning friend, thank you for joining us again. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. Everyone is welcomed here. Don't forget to like, hit that thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel so you'll get constant updates. Well, I'm Monica with Rogersville Faith Assembly, and I am so excited today because I am here with Sheldon Livesey. Sheldon Livesey is the founder of One Accord Ministries, and he's also the ministry leader of One Accord Ministry. Welcome, Sheldon.
Hi, Monica.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. Thank you for being here with us today. This
Thank
is
you.
an honor to be here with you. I know we've been friends for years. I always refer to you as my spiritual father because God just put you in my life at a great time. So this is an honor, truly. We're going to talk about One Accord Ministries. Tell us, how long has it been here in Rogersville?
We've been doing this 36 years. This is our 36th year this year.
Oh my gosh, 36 years. I didn't realize it was that long. How did it start? I know folks would like to hear about how it started, so we want to hear it from you.
For a long, long time, I was interested in our churches working together, and I've always been interested in prayer. And they had a strong ministerial group in Rogersville. There were about 15 pastors and some ministry leaders, so that's a lot of churches represented.
Absolutely.
And I asked if I could attend those meetings.
Right.
And how it started was there would be the benevolent men, about 3 men, came and they made a report every month, and they said there was about a dozen families that went. Most of these churches had some kind of a food pantry or some way of giving food, and a dozen families went to every single one, not just half of them, every single one getting help every month. I learned that a food bank opened in Kingsport.
Right.
And I had a pickup truck, and I figured it's just a solution to a problem.
Yeah.
And I told these pastors, if you will send some volunteers, we can find a place that we can give food out, and I will go get it and get it to Rogersville and have a place to give it out. So that's actually how we got started, was we just looked for a solution to a problem.
And that was it. So it was definitely, though, as we see all these years later, it was definitely a God thing. So has the location always been at the Shepherd Center here in downtown Rogersville?
That's a good question, too, and it's kind of a God story because it started in the bedroom of my home. We couldn't find a place, and after a few months, we did find a little building down on the South Church Street, and you know those buildings aren't very big, so it's 20 feet wide and 40 feet long. It only had 3 light bulbs. There were no plug-in receptacles. There was no place for refrigerators. There was no heat and air. It was just a building, $115 a month. And I said, man, how am I ever going to raise this money to rent this building? But God provided.
That's right.
And after, it wasn't too long that we started having problems. The problem was this, that I worked a job out of town, and churches needed access to the building when I wasn't in town.
Okay.
And we tried to work solutions out, but I started going to other ministries, and there wasn't a whole lot back at that time.
Right.
So what I did was I would go to other places, and I learned that if you had a thrift store, you could pay people to open the doors. That way you had standard hours all through the week.
Right.
And it was during those hours that you could have church volunteers come in if you had a food pantry in that same building and give food out. So that's where we started, and for 10 years, we were in the Artist Gallery, which is downtown catty-cornered across from O'Henry's, and we operated out of that, but we outgrew it. We outgrow that building, and we needed a place, and the Shepherd Center, what was Highland Myers, they went bankrupt, and it became available for us to buy, and that's another God story in itself. Sometime we'll do that one, but God provided that building for us so that we could move into a bigger building.
Now, you said it started with a thought. I had heard that it actually was something that you started with 2 banana boxes.
We started with just a few boxes of
Amazing.
food, and we would go to Second Harvest, and you could come back with a pickup truck. See, we didn't have money. We didn't have people giving back at that time. We weren't a 501c3 yet, so I just used my tithe money, and I'd go up and bring the food back. But we started with what I could afford. But normally I would go up and come back with a pickup load. I had a camper top.
Right.
But
In case it rained.
I'm going to get to this part in just a minute because it's really neat what God does to protect you and the food you have or whatever it is that you have to give away.
He's amazing. Yeah, he is. Okay, so it started off with food. Now, when did you start doing more than food? So was it at this point when you realized that if it was if you had a thrift store, is that how it transitioned into just more than food?
More than food, because when you've got a thrift store, you can do more out of a building
Right.
that is open and you've got somebody there to keep the doors open. But we expanded and we started a Christmas for the Children program.
Right.
We were doing a share co-op program. That was where people actually pay. It's not got anything to do with the Second Harvest Network. This is an entirely separate thing where we get co-op food in and they charge so much, but you get maybe $100 worth of food for, back at that time, $15. So we participated in that, and it helped some of the folks that we worked with. And then we did a Christian singles group for about 4 years. And all of those were great, and they sort of went away, but God began to bring us new programs. And the biggest one that started in 1990, when we went into that thrift store, was Christmas for the Children. That's still one of our biggest,
Huge.
best programs right now.
Yes, you
I love that
bless
program.
so many children. Now, it started in Rogersville. So now, where else has One Accord fingered out to? Where have you spread out to?
We are in Rogersville, and we own the Shepherd Center and Marketplace across the street, the Vision Center up the street, and we rent the back of the Review Building. So out of those, we do the food pantry, senior meals program, the delivery program, the meals, the summer feeding program. Then we do Christmas for the Children, and we host mission teams that come in the summertime.
Oh, now what do they do?
That's out of the Shepherd Center area in Rogersville.
Okay.
Now we go up the road to Church Hill, and we have a food pantry up there so we can serve all of Hawkins County with food. We have a diaper pantry in its own storefront, and we have a medical clinic up there. And the medical clinic's outgrown its space, and we're looking for larger space for it.
Oh, my gosh.
And we go across the mountain in the lowest income county in Tennessee, which is Hancock County, and we do a food program over there in a thrift store.
There as well.
Yes.
And all this, I mean, it's been around for so many years, but my gosh, in those years, it's really no time at all to see how God had grew it.
Right.
That's just amazing. Now, I heard that you also have a global mission.
We do.
Okay, tell us about that.
And in 2001, Charlie Price came to us, and God did a real work in his life, and he started taking mission trips, and he would go to countries where he saw people literally starving to death. And he held babies that he knew when he left, no matter what you did for them, they were going to die. And it broke his heart. So he came back and came to us, and he said, would we allow him to work as the director of a global side and expand of One Accord into the nations of the world, which is our Judea, Samaria, and to the uttermost. And we that was right up the mission for of One Accord, which we did. And that has grown into Mexico, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Montagora, Tanzania, Africa, into the Philippines, India, and Bangladesh.
Oh, my goodness. So you are literally reaching all parts of the world
All
with this
over the world.
ministry. Oh, my gosh.
Never would we have dreamed, but God has done all of this. None of us can take a pat on the back. None of us get any credit, because at the end of the year we say, we couldn't do this. God, thank you. You
That's
did
right.
it again.
But
Yes.
he can. He
Yes.
can. Just a little birdie kind of told me that you are probably one of the lowest paid nonprofit leaders in East Tennessee. I know you're such a humble man, but is that really true?
Let me answer that in a couple of ways.
Okay.
The first of that is I've always been interested in reading books like George Mueller.
Right.
The life of George Mueller. He didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And God called him to start an orphanage. And they would have these children sitting at a lunch table and have no food to eat and bow their heads and give thanks. And there would be a knock on the door, and they would go and open the door, and somebody had just dropped off a load of food for them. And I've always wanted to be a person like that. I never want to get in a place where God doesn't work that way in my life. Now, second thing that happened, and this is sort of a spiritual side of what took place, is when we moved back to Rogersville, I bought a business here.
Right.
And over some years, there's broke and there's bad broke.
Right.
We
Yes.
went
Bad broke.
bad broke. And some people, when they invest everything they've got into something, they get angry and resentful, and they turn away from God. For some reason, I turned to God, and I said, He's all I've got. I mean, I might have lost everything else like Job, but Father, you're all I've got. And I held on to him with all I had. And I started getting up in the morning and spending time with him, and that turned into from 30 minutes to an hour to 2 hours to 3 hours. And for 10 years, my life was consumed with spending time with the Lord and just worshiping him. And after several months, sitting at my table studying and looking down, reading at my Bible, and it's just like the Holy Spirit walked in the room and experiencing the presence of God. And I didn't have anything. I mean, we didn't have money. We were just getting by from light bill to light bill. So I understand what many of these people go through. But it was out of that time, out of those years of spending time with God, in 7 years, he let me pay off every debt from losing this business. And I had a job where I had to travel by car during the day. There was some times God's presence was so strong, I'd have to stop the car and pull over and have a glory fit, right there. People don't understand that unless they've experienced
Absolutely.
that. There is nothing as precious
Yeah.
as spending time with God and experiencing the presence of God.
Amen.
Not just in a church service, but you can do that in your own life. And it's out of that, as I said a minute ago, I never want to get to a place ever in my life where I'm walk away from God, where I'm like that little sheep that gets so busy that you put your nose down and you're grazing here and you're grazing. You see a little grass up there and you're grazing, you graze. And at the end of the day, you look up and look around and say, where's the shepherd?
That's right.
I don't want to get to that place because I don't want to put shepherd out having to leave the 99 come and get me.
Absolutely.
So that's the most important thing in my life is my position with the Lord, and then with my family and my church, and then the ministry comes after all of that.
Right. Now, so you touched base a little bit how you experienced the presence of God and how you seen him moving. Can you tell us a few other instances where perhaps you had seen undoubtedly the hand of God move as you were allowing him to grow you through the ministry?
We started it, as we said, and sometimes you don't even see things as they happen.
Right.
You look back and you see where God was working. Yeah. And for instance, I had a pickup truck with a camper back on it. Yeah. For the first 8 years, it was just me. I mean, even when we had the thrift store, we didn't have anybody carry the trash off. We didn't have anybody to do the things that we needed to do. It was me to go get food. I went every trip. I was the one that went to, and the food bank moved from Kingsport to Elizabeth, then another 45 minutes away. So it was just me. For the first 8 years, it never rained on me when I either picked up food or unloaded food.
It never rained?
It rained maybe in the middle, but it never rained
while you were moving.
When I was actually doing the work so that I'd get rained on. And when I got back to Rogersville, not a single time, I'll go back in my memory, not one single time did I ever get here that somebody wasn't just walking by on the sidewalk and they saw me start to unload and said, "Are you going to unload all that by yourself?" And I said, it won't take long. And they said, "Well, let me help you." And they helped me. I never had to unload by myself. And let me tell you, because something just overwhelmed me.
Right.
But I went to get food again in Elizabethton. Pickup truck with camper back on it. I had it loaded. You couldn't get one more item in it. There's so many stories, but I got halfway back to Gray, just on this side of the Gray exit, and I had a flat. Oh. They had just asphalted the road, and I got my little jack out, and I tried to jack it up, and the jack actually sunk down in the pavement. Oh, no. So I was going to have help. I mean, I couldn't. I didn't know what to do, so I saw a house, one that I could walk to, and I said, I'm going to go ask them if I can use their phone and call, and maybe there's a gas station, full-service gas station here that I can get somebody to come and help me.
There were no cell phones back then.
No,
So then,
right. So I walk across the interstate,
Right.
and I cross the little fence, and I walk across the field up to this house, and I knock on the door. There had been a full-service gas station in Gray, but it had closed the week before.
Oh my gosh. And
The
they
man that owned it owned the house that I went to, and he had all of his tools and stuff in the garage.
Oh my goodness.
He got out the heavy-duty jacks and the stuff he would need, because I could just point to the car over there, or the truck over there. He put those in his pickup truck and took me around and changed my tire. You cannot make this stuff
Only
up.
God.
Only God can
Only
do
God.
this kind of stuff.
A lot of times people will hear something like that and they'll be just, oh, it was a coincidence. There's no coincidences with God. I mean, it's amazing to hear this. And for you now, like to look back and all along he was right there with One Accord Ministries.
I've got a series of YouTube videos and just call them God stories. I want to write a book.
Oh, you
When I
should.
get through with my book, I want to write. I want to write a book of other people's God stories, because I believe the Revelation 12:11 says they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb. That's the word about the gospel, and by the word of our testimonies. What God has done for me will encourage other people.
That's right. That's right. Because I think that's so needed. Because everybody at one time or another, or maybe right now, somebody's listening that is in that place where they can't see a way through. And, when you hear what God has done for you, they need to know that he's going to do it for them as well. But now you put your time into the Word, and you put your time into prayer and worship. I mean, that I think is really a very important part of it, don't you?
And I didn't even know how to start, but he led me in every step, and he'll lead anybody. Anybody out there, he'll lead you.
That's right. That's right. That's right. You just have to ask him. Yeah. He is a good father, guys. He's a good father.
Let me give you just a couple of more stories. There's just so many stories about us not having something and God giving it to us, about us going down to do a food pantry and there not being enough food. I mean, we saw a bunch of people come in. At nights have more people than during the day sometimes, but we knew we didn't have enough food for all the people, but we made the same size box, and we still have food always left over at the end. It just he multiplied the fishes and the loaves.
I was just going to say, that's like today's story of when Jesus multiplied the fishes and the loaves. That's a story for now.
It's a story.
Yes.
People say, I wish I lived in Bible times and I could see
are.
those miracles. We live in Bible times.
Absolutely.
God is alive now and does things that he always has. But we moved into the Shepherd Center.
Right.
Okay, so we're a block away, and we bring our forklift down there, and we're going to have to go down in the basement. That's where we keep our forklift. It wouldn't fit. We tried every angle. We tried backing it in. We tried angling it in. It wouldn't fit. It missed that much. Well, we had paid our last rent, and the day came that we had to vacate the building. That's where we were keeping the forklift. We bring it back and forth. We couldn't leave it outside. Right. So we just went over and joined hands and prayed and said, Lord, please make this forklift go down in the basement. They got on the forklift and just right down in the basement it went. Okay, so that was fine for about 6 months. We were going in and out and unloading trucks and doing everything we needed to do. And one of the tires started flopping. That means the rubbers, you've wore the tire down and you've got to replace the tire. So I told the guys, call the forklift company and get them to change the tires, whatever they do. Well, I came in that Friday afternoon, and they had taken all 4 tires off. It was jacked up in the basement, and I didn't think about it. I woke straight up in bed Saturday night, just wide awake, and I said, when they put those tires on, it's going to have this much more rubber. I'm not going to get that thing out of the basement. So anyway, come Monday, they came back over here from Morristown. They put those tires on. Sure enough, we had that much more rubber on the tires. So, oh God, we joined our hands and we prayed, and we prayed over that forklift. It missed that much. It went right out.
Even with the new tires.
With the new tires.
Oh my goodness.
You can't make that kind of stuff I don't know how God did it. I don't need to know
No.
the house. All I know is that time after time, we've done home repairs. And there was one time we had a roof uncovered. And the team was working on the roof, and you don't want to mess somebody's house up. You don't want rain to come and ruin the sheetrock down under the roof.
Right.
But we had it uncovered, and here rain clouds started billowing in, and we joined together. We got everybody off the roof. We joined in the yard, and we just fervently prayed because you could see them rolling in.
Yeah.
And this lady had a chain link fence around her yard. And that rain started just pouring down, and you could walk anywhere around the chain link fence, and your arm would be absolutely soaked. But it was just little sprinkles on the house.
Oh my gosh.
We saw this with my eyes, and in about 30 minutes, they had everything finished up, and they got down off their ladders. They put their tools in their vehicles. They put their ladders on the vehicles, and when the last door was slammed, the rain came
rain
down.
came.
I've seen that. I've
Oh,
seen
my
it
gosh.
with my eyes. God is still in the business. When people say, well, why don't we see miracles like that? Are you on mission for Him? What are you doing for Him? But He wants to do it in people's personal lives too.
That's right.
If people are in a tough spot today, if you rely on Him, trust in Him, and say, there's nobody else that I'm going to put my trust. I commit to trust in you. He'll always come through for you.
Faithful. He's faithful.
Yeah.
When you said, and it just jumped at me when you said you were praying fervently, the Bible says the fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Proof right there. I think, I don't know, but just my opinion, I think he gets so much joy in helping when we pray and we ask. I think that just brings joy. It brings joy to his heart. I believe it does. Because as parents, your children ask for something. They need help. To me, it's never a burden. It's always, they still need me type of thing, even though they're grown up. And I believe he's our Father. And that's how we need to come to him. If you're in need, just ask him, pray and ask him. He's wanting to love on you. He's wanting to help you. I just think, God is just amazing. He's just amazing. Now, you talked a little bit earlier, I don't mean to stop here, but you talked a little bit earlier about Mueller, Mr. Mueller, the
Yes.
book that you had read by Mueller. Is that kind of the catapult, basically, right? And Mueller had miracles happening that he had written about that you had read. Looking back now, how do you feel about that?
I see some of these bigger ministries and bigger groups, and you look and they look like a corporate structure, the way they're set up, the way they operate, but you don't see God at work.
Right.
Because they don't need Him. And I never want us to get to a place where we don't need Him, where I don't need Him.
Yeah.
And so all of the way that we are set up and the way that we operate are so that we'll never get to that place. Does that make sense what
Yes,
I'm saying?
absolutely. Well, I think what happens is God moves in whether it's a church or whether it's a ministry, and it grows, and then people forget. That's that pride that comes in, where it's like, okay, we're here, and they want to do it from that point forward on their own, and they forget about God, where God has to get the glory for all things, I believe. I just admire that and love that so much about you, and the folks of One Accord Ministry all have the same heart and have the same mindset. All glory goes to God. Yeah, so I think that's just wonderful. Sheldon, thank you so much.
Let me share one thing, if I could, is, a lot of people don't pray because they don't believe God answered their prayer. They believe God answers prayer, but they don't believe God answers their prayer.
Yes.
And I need to say to those folks, listen, the pastor does not cry himself to sleep at night over your children being where you don't know where they are at night. Your pastor doesn't see the tears that you shed on your bed. God sees those. Your prayers are what's important. Don't ever think that somebody else's prayers, that you can go to church service and their prayers, that their faith is bigger than yours or their prayers mean more than yours. You are God's favorite son or daughter. You have to think that, and you have to say to yourself, God, you answer my prayers. I believe that. This is the confidence that I have, that if I ask anything according to your will, that it'll be done of you, of your Father which is in heaven. You answer my prayers. In Psalm 91, because I've set my love upon you, you hear my prayers and answer them. You when I pray, you hear my prayers. And if you can get that one thing in your life, it's life-changing, knowing that you don't have to go to somebody else, that if you bear down yourself and you pray earnestly, that God will hear and answer the prayers that you pray.
Sheldon, I'm so glad you said that. A lot of people think that their prayers aren't eloquent enough, or they don't have the best words for it. Sometimes I think the strongest prayers for myself is when I couldn't find the words and I just cried out to Jesus. You don't have to be a preacher. You don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to be anything like that to think that God is going to answer your prayers. It's not the words that are coming out of our mouths in the most eloquent way. No, it's what's coming from our heart, and from our heart, our mouth speaks. So just cry out to Him, friends.
Every year now, we're seeing Of One Accord serve 100,000 people, 109,000 this past year. And last year we gave out $6.3 million worth of goods and services. And all I can say is it's not us.
Yes.
There is a good team that work together, but we all know that the God in heaven is the one that does the work. And I just thank you for letting me come. Let me share, too, if anybody needs to find Of One Accord Ministry, all they have to do is go on the internet to Of One Accord, of O-F-1 O-N-E, Accord, A-C-C-O-R-D, ministry.org, ofoneaccordministry.org, and that's our website, or ofoneaccord@yahoo.com is our email address.
Okay.
So it makes
And if
it,
they're in Rogersville, they can come on down to the Shepherd Center.
come on down.
Come on down. Sheldon, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to have you here with me today. Thank you. I love you, and God bless you. And I just pray that the Lord continues to bless Of One Accord Ministries and you.
Thank you. The privilege is all mine, and God bless you all too.
Thank you. Well, friends, we're going to call it a wrap. You got to meet Sheldon Livesey. He is the minister of One Accord Ministries. And yes, I said the founder, even though he doesn't like to take that. He is the founder of One Accord Ministries. So I hope you enjoyed this talk that we had today. And if you did, please hit that thumbs up. We appreciate it. And subscribe if you haven't. And until next time, this is Monica with Rogersville Faith Assembly Church. Y'all be blessed, but you know what? Be a blessing to someone today. Love you all. Bye-bye.